From Anshe Sfard Bethel Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our series on Jewish things for dummies. We're all dummies when it comes to the vast nature of the Jewish tradition. So much to learn. Let's just talk a little bit about Shacharit. Shacharit for dummies. Shacharit is the early morning service for the beginner. Well, you walk into a synagogue, what are you going to see? So if we look visually speaking, without any page announcements or tapping the fellow next to you on the shoulder and asking what page we're on, you're going to see certain visual things. Number one, you'll see the early morning service will be a litany of blessings. Baruch this, Baruch that, Baruch the other thing, and everyone answering Amen. Part number one. Here, person thanks God for every aspect of waking up, from the moment you open your eyes to taking your first step, getting dressed, every aspect of waking up. Then you'll notice the first Kaddish. First time, the mourners, perhaps everyone will stand up and answer the Kaddish. Aramaic, Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemirabah, very familiar to many. You'll notice that after about 5 minutes after the service begins with the blessings, another 5-10 minutes later, after the Psalms have an introductory paragraph, Psalms have a concluding paragraph, Baruch Shamar, Yishtabach, various Psalms, Psalm 145 to 150, completion of the Psalms. We finish the book of Psalms every day. And another Kaddish. Here it's just a reader's Kaddish, just the leader, just the Chazan, the Baal Tefillah, only he will say the Kaddish. And then he'll say Baruch Hu. He'll call on everyone to join for prayer, because really the minyan begins then. That's when you really form a minyan for the saying the blessings of the Shema together. And then you're going to say the blessings of the Shema. So when we get to the Shema, that's another visual. You'll see people covering their eyes. Shema Yisrael, very familiar. But before that, you've got two blessings. Blessing of light, because it's the daytime, and a blessing of Torah, because that's what the Shema is all about Torah. And the love of God that the Torah reflects. Then you go into the Shema itself, which has 3 paragraphs. It's got the idea of that we should love and obsess over God, no matter where we are, when we are, we should put it everywhere around us. The idea of the covenant. What's the deal with God? We have to keep the commandments. God has to give us the land of Israel. It's a covenant. And finally, there's mitzvot. The 3rd paragraph of Shema speaks about mitzvot. We got to do stuff. And one example of it is the tzitzit. And we got to do all the mitzvot. The tzitzit reminds us of all the mitzvot. And not to stray from the straight and narrow, not to other ideologies, and not to things that we lust after. So that's the 3 paragraphs of Shema. And then we affirm it, emet, v'yatziv. Sometimes people kiss the tzitzit, emet, v'yatziv. Everything we said, we affirm it. And we talk about Geulah, the redemption of Israel. And then the final visual, everyone stands up. Everyone stands up, takes 3 steps back, 3 steps forward, and says the Amidah. The 19 blessings. We call it 18 Shmona Esrei. We call it 18. Once upon a time, about 2,000 years ago, it was only 18. It became 19 blessings, 3 of praise, the beginning. Then we make our various requests, personal requests, whether it be for knowledge, forgiveness, healing, parnasa, to make a living, or national requests, Geula, Yeshua, redemption, the restoration of Jerusalem, the restoration of our judges, the wiping out of evil from the world, the reward for the righteous in the world to come. So many different things, and then we bow away from God with 3 blessings. The way a servant would go away, you ask the master to accept your prayers, you thank him, and you ask for a blessing. And then you see the 3 steps back. Everyone is silent, take 3 steps back, and then the repetition of the Amidah. So we have these visuals. You walk in, there's a litany of blessings, thanking God. You see later on, there's a Kaddish. It's the first Kaddish, mourner's Kaddish. Some Ashkenazic synagogues, there's 2 Kaddishes. One Kaddish Drabanan, Kaddish that includes a blessing for the rabbis, and other regular Kaddish after a Psalm. In Nusach Sfard, if you're in Anshe Sfard or a place like that, like our shul, then, or in Israel, many Israeli shuls, then there'll just be 1 Kaddish at that point. Then you'll see people standing for the end of the various Psalms and other songs, and another Kaddish just by the reader to introduce the Shema. He'll say Baruch Hu, call on everyone to pray. Everyone blesses God. Sit down, say the three blessings, two blessings before Shema, one blessing after. See people in the middle saying the Shema, covering their eyes, and then people stand up for the Shemona Esrei, the Amidah, and that's the personal prayer, personal devotion. Very often there's a table of contents, Art Scroll Siddur, other Siddurim, Koren. You'll notice a table of contents at the beginning that will lay out some of these things. Where is the Shema? Oh, the people are saying Shema. What page is that on? They're standing up for the Amidah. What page is it on? Now, at the conclusion of services, the Amidah is not the very end. During the week, you might have tachanunim. People might fall on their arm, fall on the arm in which you're not wearing tefillin. A woman falls on her left arm. Mincha time, you fall on your left arm after the Amidah. And then you stand up. Nusach Sfard in Israel, or Anshe Sfard and other types of synagogues like that, they'll have some confessionals at that point. In Ashkenazic services, you'll just maybe sit or stand for a few more penitential prayers asking God to remember Jerusalem, to restore our community, remember us and save us. Then it might be on Monday and Thursday, it might be a Torah reading. Shabbat, it would be obviously a Torah reading. Put away the Torah. And somewhere in there, before or after putting away the Torah, you say the Ashrei again. Ashrei being that Psalm 145, it includes the idea that God opens his hand, provides sustenance. So when we're making our prayers, we want to remember that God provides sustenance. We learn a little bit. We say a psalm. We learn some translations of the Kedusha of these various verses. We study some other verses from different places. And we conclude with Aleinu, that we thank God that we're Jewish, we recognize God, others don't, and we look forward to a day when everyone will recognize God. And the very end of the Shacharit is the various psalm of the day. Now on Shabbat, Shacharit ends with the Amidah, the repetition of the Amidah by the cantor, by the leader of the services, and then we go into Torah reading and then Musaf. So we have an additional service. If you're there during the week, you might also have an additional service. If it's Chol HaMoed, intermediate days of Pesach or Shavuos. If it's Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the month, you might have a Musaf service. So you might move to another Amidah, silent and then public. So that's the basic structure. It's that simple. We begin by wanting to thank God for very particular things about waking up in the morning. We continue with some allusions to the old sacrifices because prayers are based on sacrifice. Then we go into the first Kaddish, or the mourner's Kaddish. Each Kaddish lifts you to a different section of the Amidah. Wow, now I'm going to a different section. It takes you higher and higher. At the end, it kind of wanes you away. It helps you step. It's a stepping stone through the prayers. We want to praise God. Before we start to do anything else, we're just praise God, sit and say the Psalms, finish off the book of Psalms, add some other things, the song of the splitting of the sea, because we're going to talk about redemption later on. Blessings that David made, and a Thanksgiving psalm as well. And then we go into the Shema. We want to talk about creation. We want to talk about Revelation. We want to talk about the Exodus. We want to go into the Shema and talk about love, obsession with God, the covenant, and the commandments. We want to conclude with the Amidah, an opportunity to praise God, ask Him for what we want, and make a conclusion. On Shabbat, you won't find the middle blessings particularly personal. We're not going to ask God for anything personal. We're going to focus just on having a beautiful day and be sanctified with the commandments and purifying our souls. On Shabbat, we're not going to ask for much. It's not a full Amidah, but just 3 introductory blessings, 3 conclusions, and 1 central blessing. So that's the Shacharit. In a word, that's the whole thing. It's blessings, psalms. It's the Shema and surrounding blessings. It's Amidah. It's actual requests for different things. On Shabbat, we don't request much, just to purify our hearts. And that's the Shacharit. That's how we wake up in the morning. That's how a Jew wakes up in the morning. Blessings, praising God through the Kaddish, affirming God through the Shema, loving God through the blessings of the Shema, remembering the great things that God did for us in creation, revelation, redemption, and then pouring out our heart, thanking God, but also asking God for what it is we really want. And the Siddur is not meant to be exclusive. You can add your prayers. Where do you add your prayers? It's a blessing for God to hear our prayers. Add something there. At the end of the Amidah, there's a personal You can insert personal devotions as well. It's not meant to be just something you read. It should be personal. Beginning, when a person is a beginner, perhaps you can just say the early blessings, maybe one psalm, maybe the Shema, Amidah. Maybe it's too much to say everything else. Later on, you can add more and more blessings before and after the Amidah. Very, very important. All the blessings at the beginning are very important. Later on, more and more psalms. And there are rules as to which psalms in the back of the Siddur. It explains which psalms you should say if you don't have enough time. But those are some of the rules. Those are some of the basic concepts. Those are some of the outlines and the structures of Shacharit. I hope it's helpful to all those who enter our synagogues, all those who are seeking God, all those who wish to pray. I hope that this should be helpful. We'll continue, God willing, with a series on Judaism, Jewish things for dummies. But it's just part of all of us being on a journey to learn more. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sfard Beth Hillel congregation here in Memphis, Tennessee. Join us each week for the discussion of the Parsha, the holidays, how-to videos, and now this series as well. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz, our producer.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.